Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we cut through all the noise, look closely at the sources, and really pull out those core nuggets of insight. The goal, to help you be truly well informed. Today, we're taking a deep dive into September 11th, 2001. Just a day that profoundly shook America and really the whole world. It's one of the biggest, most impactful terrorist attacks in modern history, certainly. Our source material for this is a very detailed timeline and summary. It seems like a great way to understand exactly what happened moment by moment and, the sheer impact of it all. So our mission today is to guide you through those minute-by-minute facts, the staggering scale of the tragedy, and then trace the lasting global effects.
Yeah, and it's so important with events like this, understanding the precise chronology. It's not just about dates and times, it's about really grasping the full significance, how one thing led to another, the ripple effects. This deep dive should give you that clear, structured view. Avoid that feeling of just being overwhelmed by information and instead get the full picture.
Okay, let's get into it then. Let's start by setting the scene. It's early morning, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. Started like any other day for most people.
Right, but behind the scenes, the planning was chillingly precise. We're talking about 19 terrorists, part of the Islamist extremist group al-qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, of course. Yeah. And their strategy, it was horrifyingly effective. They boarded 4 commercial flights, cross-country ones.
And they picked those specifically.
Exactly. They were chosen because they were carrying a maximum amount of fuel. The plan was to use the planes themselves as well as guided missiles.
Right, the fuel maximizing the destructive impact. To really understand the scope of this plan, maybe you could outline the specific flights, the targets.
Sure. Let's break it down. First, you had Flight 11. That was American Airlines, Boston to Los Angeles. 5 hijackers on board. Its target was the North Tower of the World Trade Center, WTC-1.
Okay, WTC-1.
Then Flight 175, United Airlines, also Boston to LA, also 5 hijackers. Target, the South Tower, WTC-2.
Got it. Both towers targeted from Boston flights.
Correct. Then there was Flight 77, American Airlines again, this time from Washington, D.C. Dulles, specifically heading to Los Angeles. 5 hijackers there too. Target, the Pentagon.
The Pentagon.
And finally, Flight 93, United Airlines out of Newark, heading for San Francisco. This one had 4 hijackers. The intended target, based on what we know, was likely either the White House or the U.S. Capitol building.
So incredibly high-value targets across the board. That careful planning then shifted into just terrifying action. Let's walk through that timeline now, minute by minute. It's still quite harrowing to recount. What was the first sign something was terribly wrong?
Well, the first impact was at 8:46 a.m. That was Flight 11 hitting the North Tower, WTC-1. It struck between floors 93 and 99. For people on the ground in New York, the first reaction was confusion, a loud explosion, smoke pouring out. Many thought it must have been some kind of terrible accident, a small plane maybe.
Right, you wouldn't immediately jump to that conclusion.
No, not at first. That initial uncertainty is a key part of how it unfolded.
But that uncertainty didn't last long. Just 17 minutes later, 9:03 a.m. Flight 175 hits the South Tower, WTC-2, between floors 77 and 85. And this one was seen live on television, wasn't it?
It was. That moment fundamentally shifted everything. It was broadcast live. Cameras were already trained on the first tower. Seeing that second plane hit, it just removed all doubt. This wasn't some freak accident. It was coordinated. It was deliberate. America was under attack, and the world was watching it happen in real time.
The clarity must have been just chilling.
Absolutely. Stark, immediate clarity.
And the attacks weren't confined to New York. The focus then broadened. At 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense in Arlington, Virginia.
Yes, a direct hit on the nation's military center. Over 100 people inside the Pentagon were killed instantly in the impact and the ensuing fire. It's just devastating.
A simultaneous blow hitting both the economic and military centers.
Precisely.
Then, back in New York, things got even worse. At 9:59 a.m., less than an hour after it was hit, the South Tower collapses, WTC-2. It had only been burning for 56 minutes.
Yeah, the speed was shocking, that collapse.
Yeah.
It just sent this enormous cloud of dust and debris rolling through lower Manhattan. You see the images, people fleeing, first responders caught in it. It turned the area into chaos, utter chaos.
Hard to even imagine. And while all this is happening in New York and D.C., there's Flight 93. At 10:03 a.m., it crashes, not into a target, but into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. What unfolded on that flight?
Flight 93 is. It's an incredible story of bravery amidst the horror. Passengers on board, they managed to make phone calls. They learned what was happening in New York and Washington. They realized their plane was hijacked too, part of the same attack, and they decided to fight back.
They fought the hijackers.
They did. They stormed the cockpit. We know this from the cockpit voice recorder. It's believed their actions forced the hijackers to crash the plane prematurely. They sacrificed their lives, but they almost certainly prevented an attack on either the White House or the Capitol. Just extraordinary courage.
An unbelievable act of heroism. And then the timeline concludes with the final awful event.
Right.
10:28 a.m., the North Tower, WTC-1, which had been burning longer for 102 minutes,
Yeah.
it collapses too.
And with that, both towers were gone.
Yeah.
Downtown Manhattan was described by witnesses as looking like a war zone, just rubble and dust everywhere. And the human cost, it's just staggering when you look at the number. At the World Trade Center site, the final death toll was around 2,753 people.
2,753.
At the Pentagon, approximately 184 deaths. On Flight 93, all 40 passengers and crew died. So the total number of civilians killed that day was 2,977, plus, of course, the 19 hijackers.
Just devastating numbers. And beyond those immediate deaths, we have to remember the first responders. Over 400 firefighters, police officers, paramedics. They ran towards the danger to save others, and they lost their lives. An incredible sacrifice.
Absolutely. Their bravery was immense.
And the impact didn't stop there, did it? Thousands more were injured that day, and then there are the long-term health consequences.
That's right. Many survivors, residents, recovery workers, they later developed serious illnesses linked to the dust and toxins at Ground Zero. Cancers, respiratory diseases. It's an ongoing tragedy, really.
A devastating legacy that continues.
It does. And if we look at the broader aftermath, 9/11 didn't just change New York or D.C., it reshaped the world. Almost immediately, it led to the declaration of the War on Terror. The U.S. invaded Afghanistan in October 2001, targeting al-qaeda and the Taliban regime that harbored them.
A major shift in foreign policy.
Huge. It marked the start of a whole new era of international relations, focused on counterterrorism, preemptive action. It changed global alliances, priorities, everything.
And domestically, too. Big changes. The creation of the Department of Homeland Security, for example.
Yes, DHS. A massive government reorganization, bringing, 22 different federal agencies under one umbrella, all focused on preventing future attacks on U.S. soil. It was an enormous undertaking.
Reflecting a whole new security posture.
Exactly.
Oh.
And air travel. I mean, anyone who's flown since 9/11 knows how different it is.
Completely changed.
We saw the creation of the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, much more intensive screening for all passengers and baggage.
And the locked cockpit doors.
Right. Reinforced locked cockpit came as standard. That single change fundamentally altered the dynamic on board an aircraft. Pilots secured the plane itself less vulnerable to being commandeered from within.
It really symbolized that shift, didn't it? Seeing the plane itself as a potential weapon.
It did. And of course, the hunt for Osama bin Laden continued for years. He was eventually located and killed by U.S. forces in Pakistan in May 2011.
Nearly a decade later.
Nearly a decade. And today, Ground Zero itself, it's been transformed. It's now the site of the National September 11 Memorial and Museum, a place for remembrance, reflection.
A powerful, solemn place. So let's try to pull this together. We've gone through the timeline, the sheer horror and chilling coordination of the attacks. The immediate devastation was almost unimaginable. This deep dive, hopefully, has given you a clearer, structured sense of this pivotal moment in history.
I think so. And it's crucial to connect those events of the day to the huge shifts that followed. Our source mentions, the sky was blue, but the world turned black. It was a demarcation point. National security, how countries interact, even our personal freedoms and sense of safety. Everything changed in profound ways. But it's also true that out of that devastation, out of those ashes, came significant, lasting changes aimed at preventing